How's everybody? Well, I think the real emphasis with our team was all along has been to develop an identity for this team for 2010 and focus on the things that we need to do to create that in terms of the effort, the toughness, the discipline to execute. And, you know, I was pretty pleased with that. I think we came out and played fast and took the ball and had a really good opening drive with good execution. Thought we had a nice 2-minute, right before the half. And, there's a lot of lessons to be learned on the other side of the fence in terms of fumbling the ball on the 2-yard line with a, redshirt freshman running back, and made some mistakes on defense that we can certainly correct and hopefully get better at what we need to do. So I was really sort of pleased with the effort, the attitude, the intensity, the way our team was kind of ready to play and focused on what they needed to do to try to create an identity for themselves. The togetherness that we played with, the positive energy was good. A lot of guys trying to be responsible to do their job in the right way and play with discipline. And I thought we, worked to try to dominate the competition. So I was really pleased with those areas. There are just some execution things that when we get challenged by better teams, we're going to get exposed if we don't do things better. And I think the players understand that. And this is an opportunity for them to learn and grow and actually make improvements. And hopefully there were some lessons learned out there. It was good that we got to play a lot of players. And, for everybody to know, there were other freshmen that we could have played that are really, could be contributors to the team this year, that have a lot of potential, that we are coaching to play. But, one of the toughest decisions that you have to make as a coach is if I play a guy in a game like this, you lose him, he loses his whole year. So if he's not going to play a significant amount to make it worthwhile in terms of his development relative to the experience that he would gain by how much he would play, then you don't play the guy. We didn't play A.J. last year, and he was the backup quarterback. And we'd, play the next guy at times in the season only because we were only going to play him if we have to. And Philip is really ready to play, and I'd have loved to play him, but I guess if we had the rule that you had 5 years to play no matter how it came out, you wouldn't have to worry about these things. If something happens to a quarterback, then Philip's going to have to play, and we'll wish we had played him. But you don't have a crystal ball, and you don't know, so I'm telling you all in advance that you can second-guess me for all this if it happens. Is that fair? But it's tough. Yes.
Coach Saban, tonight's game gave you an opportunity to see a lot of young players, one of those being Eddie Lacy, who had a productive night but also an untimely turnover. What have you seen out of him in his year in the program, and how would you characterize his running style?
Well, I think Eddie has come a long way from a maturity standpoint and a toughness standpoint and an intangible standpoint to be able to play winning football on a consistent basis. He also feels a lot more confident in assignments and execution. I know you all evaluate the fact that he made 103 yards or something, so therefore he had a great night, but he also did a really good job of picking up the blitz a couple times and did some other things that indicate that he's more ready to play. Now, when you fumble the ball on 1st and 2 at the 2, that's not winning football. But he didn't take the right steps. He didn't do the right things. He didn't make the right cut. He didn't make the right read. So those are things that he needs to learn from. And it's also an opportunity for us to show all the guys that if you do things right, that's going to give you the best chance to have success. You all want to have fun. What makes you have fun? Playing well. Well, if you want to play well, you got to focus on doing little things right. And that was one of those circumstances where he didn't, but I'm sure he's going to learn from it.
Coach, to piggyback off Aaron's question to talk about some of the young players, you said last week, that it would be hard to determine some things about them until game time, actually. And you said some of them don't know, and some of them don't even know that they don't know. And
Right.
so I'm just wondering now, after they've played the first game, what about those young players did you learn tonight?
Well, I mean, there was a bunch of them that played. You know, we had a whole ton of guys that. I mean, it's really the first time since we've been here that I actually feel a need to sort of talk about things that you take for granted, like the dress code for a trip, you know, things like that. Because we've had guys around here for 2 or 3 years and everybody knows what the dress code is, but we have a significant number of guys that haven't been on our team before and haven't played before and haven't traveled before that I find myself saying, you know, I need to spend some time explaining this stuff that we explained 3 years ago, and have found it probably better with this team to coach this team like we coached the team the first year in terms of things like that. And I think that helps younger players to develop because you clearly define what your expectation is for them and of them all the time. So in doing that, I think they have a better idea of what you expect, and you also explain to them how you expect them to do it and why it's important for them to do it that way. So, but to get specific right now after the game and start talking about this guy did this and that guy did that, you know, it's hard for me. A lot of guys got to play. A lot of guys did a lot of good things, and just about all of them need something, have something to work on so they can do better.
Coach, 2 quick questions. First, if you could comment on what you saw from the new specialist tonight. And secondly, it looked like Brandon Moore was not on the dress list. If you could shed any light on that.
Well, he was, I thought this was something that was public information a long time ago, but Brandon had some secondary violations that he was suspended for 1 game. That happened last year, all the way last year. And I didn't know y'all didn't know about that. It happened so long ago, I actually forgot about it. They just reminded me of it this past Thursday. But he would have played in the game, and he has been playing, and he would work in and get some playing time if he were available, and he will be available after this game. The young specialist, I thought, did better than expected. You know, sometimes, you know, you can do things to help them. You know, Brad could have helped the guy. You know, the guy can sky punt better to the right than the left, the one bad punt that he had. So he calls the protection where the guy's got to kick to the left, but he could have called it where he could kick to the right. But, you know, so we need to help him. You know, our other players need to help him sometimes when they can. I thought the kickers did a fine job. You know, we did it as planned. You know, Shelley was kicking the short stuff, and Cade was going to kick the long stuff. But if we got to a certain point in the game, then we're going to let Cade get more experience kicking everything, so he had an opportunity to kick some. He did a good job of kicking off, I think, except for the 1 kick was a little bit short, kind of undercut it. Snapper was pretty good. Specialists didn't have a lot of opportunities. You know, they kept punting the ball away from us on the punt, so most of them were not fieldable balls. But we still have to develop a good return game that's going to help us with vertical field position in the punt, and kickoff return was good. We just got a dumb penalty that, you know, cost us a lot of field position on the 1 return that we had. You know, the other one they sky kicked, so we didn't really have a chance to return it. But Trent did a nice job, and, you know, got a late hit and a hit in the back.
Coach, Courtney Upshaw, could you update us on his status, and were there any other injuries?
Courtney has a sprained ankle. He probably could have continued to play in the game, you know, if we needed him to. But he does have a sprained ankle. He may be a day or 2, but we think he's going to be okay for next week. We've got some guys that have bumps and bruises, but I don't think anything significant that would cause anybody to miss any time.
Coach, in addition to covering the game today, we're doing a special on game day atmosphere in Bryant-Denny Stadium. How unique and special is it for you to lead the Tide out of the tunnel, especially now in front of 101,000 people here?
Well, you know, the atmosphere has always been good to play here. You know, I didn't notice a whole lot of difference. Stadium looks great. We're glad to have it. the way it is. I think it's one of the finest competitive venues in the country now to play a football game, not only for the players but also for the fans, because I'm not sure there's a bad seat in the house. But the one thing I would like to comment on is, you know, I was a little bit concerned having a new team that, you know, our fans wouldn't show up to support this team. You know, like, well, this is not a big game, so we're not coming to the game. But the energy and atmosphere here today was fantastic, created by our fans, from everything from the, you know, Walk of Champions to, you know, the spirit in the stadium, in the game. And I know our players appreciate that. I appreciate it. It's important and helpful to them, you know, in their development and maturity, to know that they're being supported that way. So it's great. But I don't notice things like that. You know, I mean, I don't know how many people are there. I'm focusing on the next play. I think the stadium's beautiful, and I love the enthusiasm that our crowd has. But I couldn't tell one bit of difference today from the crowd, because we had a bigger stadium than we didn't have quite as big a stadium, because the atmosphere has always been great to play in here.
Coach, in the time he played, Trent Richardson was able to touch the ball a number of ways for you. Can you, and made a lot of big plays. Can you just talk about what he gave you in the time that he was in there?
Well, you know, Trent's an outstanding player. He was an outstanding player for us last year. You know, he and Mark are a tremendous duo. But, you know, Trent's he's a good receiver. He's a good runner. He's got power. He's got speed. He can change direction and make you miss. Thought he played extremely well tonight, and he's got a tenacious, competitive spirit about him that you're going to have to get him down. He's not going to come down. So, you know, we thought that he had enough in the first half, and I know he caught a couple passes, 2 or 3, and probably had 10, 12 carries, something like that. And that was probably enough, and we needed for the other guys to play. But we also need for another running back to sort of come to the surface besides those guys. And we got a couple young ones that have an opportunity to do it. We could have played them tonight, but decided not to. But we're going to continue to work with them. But Trent's done a fantastic job here ever since he's been here, and he's a lot better now than he was last year in terms of his confidence and knowledge and experience and what he's expected to do.
Coach, I was wondering if you could just give your thoughts on how A.J. played tonight.
A.J. did good. You know, he got to learn how to sit in the pocket and floats around too much into the rush sometimes, but he throws it great. He's got a good arm. He's very accurate. I thought he managed the game very well. We gave him an opportunity which was planned regardless of the circumstance in the game. He was going to play in the second quarter, no matter what the score was, because there may be some time down the road that he needs to play in a critical time in the game, and he's got some experience doing it, and did a pretty good job through a nice touchdown pass. Next drive, we, you know, had to punt for the first time, but I'm not sure that was all his fault. But I thought he did a really good job. I thought Greg played extremely well too.
Coach, would you talk about Julio's touchdown catch and the concerted effort to get him involved early there on your first possession?
Right. Well, you know, we've tried to take some things that would complement our running game, that would be helpful to people not being able to load the box. So if we get certain looks, we just throw it out there, and he's a great big target and a good guy running with the ball. And we had a couple of those plays called early, and you know, the box count was such that we needed to throw it, and we did. I thought he made a great touchdown catch. I thought he made a great catch on the seam route. I think those types of vertical routes are the things that we'd like to really get him involved with because of his size and strength, and difficult to defend in a deep part of the field. And that's something that we, you know, really need to improve on. But we got to pick our shots right. You know, we had one tonight where Hanks was wide open. Greg only had 2 incompletions, but one of them was, and the play's supposed to go to Hanks, and they got 2 guys on Julio, and he throws it up, and we could make 50 throwing to somebody else. You know, we got other good players that we need to get the ball to that we have a lot of confidence in. You know, Hanks has had a great camp and done a great job, and you know, so has Mays. So, and we got some young guys that can run fast that need to learn how to play. So But Julio did a great job tonight, I thought.